Hey, how are you doing? Happy Resurrection Day, but that's daily. Living resurrected in your life. Taking it beyond the buzzwords of the trend of just saying Happy Easter and He lives. Because if you really want to know how significant Christ's life is, especially Christ's resurrection, not just Christ getting out of the ground. Because if you don't value the sacrifice or the identity, excuse me, if we don't value the identity, we won't value the sacrifice. And if we don't value the sacrifice, we won't value the resurrection, not just the getting out of the grave, but the uncommon living. If you really want to know how much you value the resurrection of the divine, look at how you value your own day-to-day life. How often do you get out of the grave of despair and fear and procrastination and going through the same life cycles over and over? And it's easy to create this new creative vibe out of the resurrection, so we won't just have the same common messages that we've always had. And we could put our creative spin on it and we'd be like, that's a good way to put it. And yet we'll still live in those same cycles of non-value, those same sluggish cycles of blindness and misunderstanding and fear. So if you don't really understand the identity, you're not going to understand the sacrifice. If you don't understand the value of the identity, you're going to consistently feel sorry for Jesus for dying, when really He doesn't want you to feel sorry that He died, because He won't see the victory and the power in His identity and in His obedience. Do you see the value? Forget the crucifixion. I'm not making it insignificant. But do you see the value of His obedience? By a show of hands, do you really recognize the value of His obedience, of His commitment to His identity unto death? Do you recognize it? Do you applaud Him for His commitment and fear your own? Because if I'm going to applaud Jesus while fearing my own life, then I'm not really doing anything except flattering Jesus. Have I discovered, now I'm asking a legitimate question here. Do you really appreciate the obedience of Christ? By a show of hands, like, oh yes. Because if you fail to identify that obedience and that commitment to His identity to your own life, you're going to have a disconnection and you're going to have an extreme, severe inconsistency in your own glorious life. Am I making sense? So if I'm going to have an awesome, glorious resurrection or resurrection consciousness, I must first naturally appreciate the identity of Christ. And then I must appreciate His commitment to identity. Because if I'm afraid of my own commitment to my identity, how can I appreciate His commitment? So we have to move beyond the basic flattery of spirituality and talk and stuff like that, and really begin to see ourselves in Jesus as Jesus. Am I making sense to you? Yeah. So I pray that happens. I pray that you are valuing your identity as a result of His. And I pray that you value your commitment to the responsibilities to your identity. Jesus had a cross that was assigned to Him, and He committed His life to His assignment. And I pray that you too commit to yours. Yeah. And I could be making sense, but until you see it for yourself, I'm just going to be making sense. And sometimes I could get tired of making sense. I'm tired of being understood, especially if I'm understood and you still can't see it. Because when you see it for you, you would do it and take it to another level. You can't take anything to another level by merely understanding it. You have to see you in it. And when you see you in it, you have to do what you see in it. You have to do the you that you see. Right? Let's look at something here. We're not going to talk long. We're going to look at the book of Matthew, chapter 7. The value of the identity. We thank Jesus for rising again, but if I'm not thankful for the identity of Jesus and his commitment to his identity, not just his death. And what did his death? Before I go on, can you really identify what his death did for you? I know what we say, it took me, clean me from my sins. Yeah. But what did his resurrection really do for you? Because if you're going to be happy about it, and if you're going to be happy about it and celebrate it, have you definitely recognized in your own heart what his identity and his obedience to his identity, what did it do for you that's causing you to imitate it and pay it forward? We have that pay it forward. If you go to Chick-fil-A and you buy your food and then you say, you know what, I'm going to pay for the car behind me. And then the other car will get up and get a pleasant surprise that the car in front paid for this meal. And so when he or she finds out that their items were paid for by the car in front, they just keep passing it forward. They keep paying it forward. I'm going to pay for the car behind me. Since the money that I was using to pay for my own, I'm going to bless someone else. Have you paid it forward as a result of knowing what he's done for you? Can you guys explain to me right quick what he's done for you? Not the job or, he helped me get up this morning. What did his identity and his commitment to his identity, to that degree, he poured out his soul to his death. He gave himself to it. What did it do for you? And are you pouring out yourself to your life? What did it do for you? All right. Matthew 7, 13. Value. Since we're talking about comprehending the value of identity. Sometimes you ever had a person, you had a relative that really got they gained entrance in a school that was impossible to get into. And sometimes the more impossible the achievement, the more valuable the testimony. If I'm making sense, raise your hands. When you say, hey, it was only 2 people they were choosing to get into the school. She was one of them. She had to pass a lot of tests to get in it. And the more impossible the achievement, the more valuable the power, the more valuable the achievement. If y'all understand what I'm saying, the more impossible the achievement, the more valuable the achievement. They made it. And you could talk about it. You say, what happened? They got Journey. Journey made the team. They were only picking 2. And she made it. And then you look at her. And then you point and then you look at her and smile. Look at you. I'm proud of you. Because they were not accepting everybody. And it's like that in life. Certain realms of impossibilities determine the value of the obtaining of the thing. The impossibility determines how valuable and significant the obtaining is. The more impossible it is to achieve, the greater the achievement, right? It's, you know, the value by the uncommon access. The more restrictive it is, the more valuable it is. The least accessible it is, the more valuable it is, because not everybody can do it. But if it's something that everybody could just go and get, it's no need to brag on it because it's not as valuable. It's not saying it's not good, but it's not as significant as what you have to overcome to achieve it. So let's look at this, and I'm going to let you go. Matthew 7:13, he says, you can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide for the many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only few ever find it. Only few ever find it. Only few. Why? He says the way to this life is narrow. It's not common. It's not easy. And if you achieved it, you want it to. If you achieve this awakening, not if you achieve it through a person by being nice to the right people, and then they give you access. Because this power has nothing to do with anybody understanding you. This power has nothing to do with anybody understanding what you mean when you talk. This power has nothing to do with anyone passing you through. This reality has nothing to do with anybody letting you in the door. This power is a let that you allow you to experience. Because your freedom, if your freedom lies in another person, you don't want to be free. But true freedom lies within the person and what you let you do. Now, mind you, if I have assignments that are given to me and I'm consistently failing them or not doing them, but yet I'm showing up to the next level classes to learn, then I have taken the value out of the kingdom, because I've told myself I don't have to finish an assignment, but yet I have access to go and sit down and learn the next step. I don't want to understand it. I've taken the value out of it because I'm telling myself I can fail. I could procrastinate. I could not turn my work in. I could not be my best and still go to the table and learn what's next. Am I making sense? I don't want to understand, because if I can fail what I've been given, and if I can put aside what I've been given, and if I could just sit it down and still show up and learn about the next step, I have just taken the value out of it, and I've just told this power, I don't need to do it anyway, because if I don't do it, I still know what it is. I've just taken the power out of it by declining to be my best, and I'm going to still show up tomorrow to see what the next level is all about. Am I making sense, Bridget? Do you hear what I'm saying? Jesus said, the gateway to life is very narrow and the road is difficult and only a few find it. Well, how come the few cannot really be their best, but yet I want to see what's going to happen anyway? I'm taking the value out of the kingdom and making it something common. I just told myself I don't have to do it. and I'm still going to find out what it is. But he says it's a difficult road. Only few find it. Sometimes it's not a person keeping you out. It's the value making sure that you've undertaken the process seriously and completed it. It's not another person declaring you unworthy of anything. Because if you think the kingdom is based on another person giving you access to it, you've missed it. It's not about who's holding it back and declaring you ignorant over and over again until you get over them. Because no one is controlling your connection to the next dimension. No one is holding you hostage from being great in yourself. No other person has the power to keep you out of your own life. No other person has the power to keep you out. So befriending somebody and talking nice to them is not going to give them the power to let you in. They can let you into their house, but they can't let you into their purpose or into their spirit. They can let you into their room. They can let you into their friendship, but they can't let you into their purpose. Am I making sense? He said only few find it. It has nothing to do with skill or intelligence. It has to do with you yielding to the process and getting out of the way of your own understanding. Because sometimes understanding is the enemy of growth. Because I'm trying to understand how much to let myself get involved. And if I could understand it, I could see how far to go. And if I'm still trying to see how far to go, then I would never go far. He said, few be that find it. See, when something is common, it's not valuable because we can all just go. But you notice how valuable you make it sound when you make it something hard to achieve, and yet your relative did it or you did it. They gave a test. They said it was only a few people, and I made it. How awesome it makes you feel. How smart it makes you. How special it makes you. How much favor you feel you have when you have earned something that's impossible to earn, but yet you've done it. Well, the kingdom is something not freely given. And this dimension is not a new understanding. This way of life and this way of thinking, he says only few find it because it's narrow, because it's straight, because there's no room for convenience or flexibilities or BS or lying. There is no room for nothing else. And it has nothing to do with living perfect. It has nothing to do with morality. It has nothing to do with how nice you are. That's the thing. It's beyond our understanding because we think if I'm good enough, I'm qualified. And the kingdom and this consciousness has nothing to do with how good you are. It has nothing to do with how nice you've been. And that's what we can't understand. Well, what is it that I'm missing when I've been so nice? And it has nothing to do with nice. It's having the same mentality that Jesus had for himself. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Jesus. The mind be in you, which was also in Jesus. And what does it take to have that mind? Well, it's not for me to tell you. I don't know. I can say, well, it takes this and this and this. I don't know. Because that prerequisite is in you. And if you don't yield far enough to hear the instruction, no one on the outside is going to be able to tell you what to do to unlock you. I know what it took for me to unlock me to me, but you're not obligated to live me. You are being drawn to live you. I could tell you what it took for me to unlock me, but the key to my life is not the key to your life. When something is common, it's not valuable. That's right, Tracy. That's right. When it's so common, there's nothing to brag on. We brag when we were in an uncommon situation and achieved it. I read, and I'm glad you're on, Tracy. I read a lot of the testimony that you say about your daughter, Jada. When you say, look at what she's achieved academically in college, based on learning disabilities and certain things that happen, certain cognitive malfunctions or dysfunctions that she suffered from. And looking at how they labeled her based on a certain dysfunction, and how you saw her work hard and overcome the dysfunction to achieve collegiate excellence. And people can look at the Facebook and watch Jaden dancing and being creative, not knowing that she wasn't always like that. That she's making dean's lists and top students at Winston-Salem State. But when they look back at the tests, at her life, the impossibilities, it makes you talking about her mean more than just bragging on your daughter. You're saying, look at what she achieved when she was told she could not. Look at what she's done when other folks can just get up and go to school. But when your cognitive abilities has been strained, when you abnormal and do something normal, it makes it powerful. Write that down. When you are abnormal, when you are declared abnormal, and you do something as the normal, it makes your normal a superpower. You hear what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. When you're disabled, when they declare Undrai Fizer disabled, and that he could die in this amount of time. But then one April, he writes 4 books in 1 month on dialysis. That he gets on a boat and rides a boat, disabled. When you take your disability and your impossibility and you begin to do something possible, it becomes a superpower. Do you follow? Do y'all hear what I'm saying now? When you take dyslexia and they say you have a learning disorder, yet you master the order from a place of disorder, that's a superpower. Jesus said the kingdom is like gaining access to an Ivy League school on dyslexia. He said the kingdom, do y'all hear what I'm saying? He said the kingdom is when you're disabled and you do it abled, disabled. He said only few find that power. Only a few will find that power. Only a few. It's not a matter of whose butt you can kiss. It's not a matter of, because see, you know this power don't come from no one else, but it comes from you. It comes from a spirit of excellence within you. It can't come from nobody. They might open the door and let me in, but I'm going to have to reach in me to stay. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? I know what I'm talking about. When you got somebody like Dr. Bridget, who goes to school, because she already knows how to sew and design. So she goes to school and she knows more than her teachers, but instead of taking pride and trying to out-teach her teachers, she subjected herself to her teachers like she didn't know anything. And what happened is God showed her grace and favor to the point Bridget didn't even graduate, and they made her a professor, and she didn't even graduate. Do you follow what I'm saying? See, that's a superpower. You understand? when they recognize your skill and put you above, and really you're still a student. But now you're in the faculty magazine as faculty, as a professor, and you don't even have a degree from the school yet. Look, let me tell you, I ain't talking invisible spirituality. I'm talking resurrected power here. See, if you don't appreciate the identity, you're not going to appreciate the sacrifice. And if you don't appreciate the sacrifice, you're not going to appreciate the resurrection. So every time Bridget go to class, she appreciates the resurrection. Whenever Dr. Tracy Mack looks at Jada, she recognizes the resurrection every time they have to go to school. Every time they drive them hours to go to Winston-Salem just to be what they can, they know and they talk about it to themselves. Remember when Jada was here? Come on now. Remember when Jada couldn't do this? Remember when she couldn't put her letters together? Remember when she couldn't read that? Remember when she was making this grade and that grade? But she knew, I know it's more to her than this. See, you can recognize and celebrate a resurrection when you recognize an identity. Look. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. Because if you don't recognize your identity, the only thing you're going to have is Happy Easter. That's it. Happy Easter, everybody. That's all you're going to have. But when you can recognize your identity and you can recognize how Jesus committed to his, then you can celebrate it. You can't, I don't care about if it's a pagan holiday, if it's a sex holiday, if it's rabbits. I don't even get caught up in the debate. But I am caught up in a resurrection. I could care less if you eat an egg today. I don't have time to talk about we don't do that. Because I recognize Mary. I recognize the right thing. I recognize the real thing. Because if you keep failing the test and not coming through and procrastinating the order of God, and then still show up at the table like, go ahead and teach, I'm ready to hear you. You done missed everything. You done missed it all. You made it common. That's how come you don't have to do it. You've made it common. That's how come we're not consistent with it. We still think we learn the next step while doing the assignment whenever we want to. So I don't have to live it because you're still going to tell me the secret, whether I do it or not. So when you think it's easily accessible, you're not going to live it. You're not going to live it. You're not going to do it because you still think you have access to it, whether you're slow or not. But I'm going to tell you something, baby. When you know the impossibility of a thing, you treat it better. You treat it better. You treat it so much better because you remember when you couldn't do it. You remember when you couldn't do it. I remember I couldn't get credit. I had it a long time ago and messed it up. And when I finally got it, I'm like, I'm taking care of everything. But if I took it for granted, I'm going to lose it again. When you finally get back on your Tracy, now y'all know what we're talking about. When you finally get back on your feet, I don't care if it's a 2,000 square foot, 55 square foot house. I don't care how much the size. You're not going to lose yourself no more. When you done screwed it up because you thought it was just like whatever. But when you finally get it back, you're gonna treat your chances better because few be that find it. You're going to treat it when it's a gratitude take. You better know it. You're going to treat it different when you get another chance. But listen, guys, for those of you who've gotten another chance and you went back and did the same mess, it's because that's how you saw it. It wasn't valuable. It wasn't that you didn't understand it. It wasn't valuable enough to commit to. It wasn't valuable enough to be consistent with. You can't be consistent with anything that's common. When you get it back, you do better. When you get it back, you do greater. When you get it back, you do greater. He say, few be that find it. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And few be, the kingdom is a straight gate. And he said, it's few be that discover it. Only a few would give themselves a chance to ascend. Because the kingdom is a mental ascension. It's not I got the book. You can't study the kingdom. It's an ascension of the soul. Write that down. The kingdom is an ascension of the soul. That's right, Ruth. It's an ascension that no one can teach you about. How can I get there? Can't no one tell you how to unlock your own soul to you? But see, when we take ourselves for granted, you will never see the significance of it within you. I wrote that in How to Love Yourself Back to Power. If you don't see the celebration of you, you won't go far in you because you won't feel there's nothing worthy to go far in. And you'll find yourself trying to connect with a friendship with somebody else who's great. And after a while, you will seek an association with a great person. And that'll be as far as you go. I need to connect with somebody who did it. And maybe I will get pulled in too. I gotta find somebody to connect with and hide with, that when they go up, they'll take me. No, that's where the separation is going to come. Mm-hmm. If you are lackadaisical with order and you still show up at the table, I'm just trying to find out what's next. You just treated it common. You just said it's not a valuable thing because you got access to it anyway, whether you pass or fail. Whenever you feel you have access to something, even though you failed, it's not valuable. Now, we're not talking salvation. Jesus died for all. We're talking inner ascension. We're not talking salvation. We're talking personal ascension. Do you see the difference? We're not talking about what Jesus did. We're talking about what you do for your identity. Jesus died for your soul, but what are you doing for your identity? Look, that'll be my time. I'm gonna let y'all go when we see our soul just ascended as our spirit. Oh yeah, most definitely. Because you'll know you to be what Jesus is. Some people, Ruth, are trying to find out who they are outside of Jesus. We really all are the embodiment of Jesus. But when we have not celebrated his identity, we'll want to be something like him, but not him. We're still looking to be something for us to be satisfied with, because we have yet to be satisfied with Christ. Because most of us think Christ is a mere religious symbolism. And really, Christ is the fullness of all things. Okay? Look, it's your holiday today. I won't keep you. If you have a seed, if you want to invest in Profoundly Speaking, please feel free. I'm not going to call it a resurrection seed. No, it's just money. If you want to put some money into the work. If you want to say, I want to bless you with some money. Thank you. Thank you. But I'm telling you, if you keep being a procrastinator and then showing up to say, I'm here to learn, you just made it unvaluable because you said it don't have a criteria at all. You don't know, you don't see the value of what it's like to earn that. You don't earn your salvation. But you do want to earn your own trust in your identity as a Christ being. I'm Undrai Fizer. Download our app in the App Store, Fizer Interglobal or Google Play Store, and listen to the podcast and watch the videos. You know what? I really don't have to tell you to do what your heart is in love with. So keep doing what your heart is in love with. I'm Undrai Fizer, and bless you and thank you.